I've been dying to do this call for a little while here. So we have the one, the only Cassie Williamson with us, and boy, you got a lot going on.
There's a lot going on right now. Life is just busy, but in the best way. So, I mean, when it's good busy, you can't complain. You just got to ride the wave.
Ride the wave, and you're good at riding the wave. Uh,
Yes.
let's see, you moved,
Yeah.
you changed jobs, your husband changed a job, you had a baby. And now you've launched the new hire blueprint with Impact 88.
Yeah. A lot of exciting stuff. Just
It
a
is.
little crazy. Just a little crazy.
All right, so let's get into it because I want to talk about this blueprint thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just kind of back up. When I got into the industry in 2001, there was a barrier to entry. Um, you had to attend Highland Bay if you wanted to get in the industry, and in Phoenix particularly, but this was around the country, but particularly Phoenix. And I remember I was thinking, man, that's interesting. And since then, we haven't really seen an onboarding program. We've seen internal onboarding programs where companies have an onboarder who's hired with the company. It's usually the bigger, companies.
Mhm.
But for the most part, onboarding, from my vantage point and traveling around the country for the last 20 years, is fairly broken. I mean, I don't know what you see, but I tend to see people like, okay, you're hired. Great. And the sales manager's like, I got 7 meetings I got to be in. Let me go ahead and dump you with Stacy in our community. She's gonna take good care of you. And Stacy's like, "Ugh." And then they make the new hire do all the paperwork and get all the coffee, and all those things. But it's not really onboarding. It's not really training. So walk us through a little bit about what your thinking was around the new hire blueprint and what problem are you solving? That's the thing I want to know.
Yeah, so I did not join the industry in 2001, Ryan, just so you know. We'll just leave it
I
at
don't
that.
I don't want to hear
I
where
think
you
that's
were.
where we need to start. But some people know, not everybody knows that I came into the industry hired as an online sales counselor and designer, and totally green. I had just come out of healthcare during the pandemic, crazy, and so I knew nothing about home building. I knew nothing about new home sales. All that I had going for me is that I can pretty much talk to anybody. That's it. That's all I had. And
It's a good
within
skill.
yeah, it's a good skill. Within a couple of weeks, we lost our one and only salesperson because this was a small team just getting started. And so then I became tasked with also selling. And I recognized in that moment that I was not equipped or ready to do what I needed to do to be successful at the job. And so I started calling on anybody, my lenders, our trades, the builders, even as far as like different people in the community who I knew were well known and established, and just using that Michael Scott quote, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year old. Like, talk to me through this process. And so I was creating what I didn't know at the time, all these different pockets of resources that
Mhm.
built a foundation of my knowledge of our industry and how to be really good at selling a home.
But what's interesting about this is it sounds like you were your own onboarding trainer.
Yeah, I mean, our team had good intentions. I got a manual. I got the code to the model home door. I got a couple of books, but at the
Nice.
same time, the person onboarding me was also running the sales team and the company, and there was no bandwidth to properly onboard me. And
Yeah.
so I'm a pretty persistent person, you know this, and I was determined to get out there and find some resources for myself, but not everybody is going to take that route. And not everybody has the resources available to them to do that. And so, this huge pain point of how do I learn how to do this and do this fast and well so that I'm
Mhm.
not outsold by the person who's selling against me down the street?
So this is let's bring that into today's new home salesperson getting hired. What are you seeing from a hire perspective? What are some of the flaws in the onboarding that you from your vantage point?
Yeah, I think, well, I want to start with I think everyone's intentions are good. I don't think anyone hires someone and says, I'm going to
Oh
bring
no.
you on and give you the worst onboarding experience of your life and just laugh because I think
I
that's
hope you completely fail and
yes,
this
I
experience
I
sucks.
can't wait to watch. Woohoo! No, I don't think that's the intention. So I want to start off there. I think what's happening, there's two things. One, we've got sales managers who are tasked with onboarding, who have this intention of being able to really train them, show them the ropes, give them a great experience. But then guess what? Life happens and the meetings, the calls, the fires, and they have no bandwidth. They're already stretched so thin to onboard these newbies. And so then what we do is, oh, hey, here's Sarah in this community. I want you to observe her. She's really good. She's our best salesperson.
Yeah.
She's going to show you how to do things. So that's extreme number one. But at the same time, does Sarah know how to properly onboard? Does Sarah want to onboard? Does Sarah have good habits? We don't know. How is,
I can tell you that my experience. I share this story about a company I used to train out of Las Vegas, and they had a guy who was a top sales guy named Michael, and when they would get a new hire, they would say, "Well, you got to go shadow Michael. He's the top sales guy." Well, Michael was one of the more toxic people I'd ever met.
Hmm,
I mean, this guy talked trash about the managers, the training, everything.
yeah,
Just his personality, you know.
yeah.
And after the third new hire quit, after their third week, they thought maybe we shouldn't onboard with Michael. But they still didn't have an onboarding process. And they just shifted it to somebody else. And it's a hope strategy. We hope they don't poison this person.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's the cost of wrong or poor onboarding? Forget intention. Let's talk about the actual doing the onboarding. What's the cost of doing it wrong?
Well, I think first of all, and I talk to sales leaders every day, close friends, people who I know in the industry. It's hard to find people right now. We are running out of people to hire. I talk to leaders who cannot find good prospects, who cannot find people that they want to bring on. So first of all, what does it cost to just get a candidate in the door right now, a good one? And then if you've made the offer, if you've extended the offer and they've accepted it, and you bring them on, and your onboarding experience isn't strong and they don't stay, what did you just lose? And then you're back to the drawing board.
Right.
The other thing is, if they stay but they're onboarded wrong, what are you now filtering to not only the rest of the team but your customers? Because it's not just bad habits, it's a mindset. You were talking about Michael, like what kind of culture are they going into? What is this completely excited new, woohoo, I got a new job person getting from the people around them? Because I think all of us are really excited when we start a new job. We've got that, our emotional altitude is high, we're woohoo. And then if you come on and it's not a good experience, you're left thinking, did I make the right choice? Do I need to start looking for someone else? I don't want to stay here. This isn't where I want to spend my time. That's the cost. Like, it is so much more than just a couple of bad weeks of onboarding. You're sacrificing what could have been a great hire to either lose them completely or to taint them with whatever you put them in.
It's either way, the outcome isn't very good.
No.
No. So, okay. So we know that onboarding is really super important. I mean, there's numbers, there's research that would show you that if you have a strong start, the odds of success go up pretty dramatically. And, as a manager, one of the best things that can happen is your new hire has success as fast as possible. Why? Because the endorphins hit, right? They are like, this is great, and they get excited. To your point, we want that high emotion to be carried out through the start of that.
Mhm.
So we have to ask the question, well, then what kills the emotion? Well, I think you just nailed it, right? Confusion causes doubt. Am I doing it right? Is
Mhm.
this the right thing? Is this what I should be doing? Is this how you open a model? If I don't know, I remember my first day. My first day on the sales floor, I made a sale. I think I was as shocked as the buyers were. I had no idea that I was like, oh, really?
We're
And then
doing this.
I had this thought, oh crap, I need to write a contract. Now, I had seen a contract. They had shown me the contract, but I had never actually presented a contract and role played and practiced how to do a contract.
Yeah.
And I remember going, um, and I looked around and they probably thought, whoa, whoa, what did we just do? And my partner, Stephen Gates, I'm like, help! And he had to come over and help write the contract. And I'll never forget, we were on a competitive floor. He goes, well, because I wrote the contract, I get 25% of this deal. And that was the rule at our company.
Mm,
And I took the route you did. I'm like, well, I'm never going to let that happen again. And I remember taking it upon myself to figure out how to do a contract.
yeah.
So this is part of the key is having a strong, if you're watching this right now and you don't have a strong onboarding program, and you don't, if you're the sales leader and they don't stop all your meetings and they don't stop all the fires and you don't have to focus on getting sales,
Yeah.
then you're probably doing a good job at onboarding. But let's be honest, that's not happening for anybody, right?
Mm,
If that's you, then you need to look at how do you stop trying to do both? Because when you try to do both, you're probably subpar at both, if that makes
mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
But then there's the flip side of this because I was sitting down with a sales leader just yesterday, Cassie, and can I throw a couple of questions that I think the audience probably has about this at you?
Sure.
So the first one is, what exactly are they going to learn? Like onboarding, it's sort of What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think, again, sharing my story about where this program was born, it is an opportunity to build a foundation of multiple components of the industry. So this is not sales training. This is not a replacement of sales training. This is the idea that we're walking into this like we need some really strong foundational skills across multiple platforms. So when we say multiple platforms, I think about, well, first of all, why are you there in the first place? Why are we doing what we're doing, this crazy thing called new home sales? Then we talk about knowing your builder. And so the idea is that we are not super builder specific because we're offering this to people, across the country.
Sure.
It's very much this understanding of how can we give you the tools and questions to go back and take to who you do work for and apply them to your own situation. So prospecting, follow up, educating your buyers with confidence, the financing, pricing, CMAs, market analysis. What are you looking for? How are you owning your process? Your community management. What does that look like? What should you be looking for? I never in my mind, wildest dreams, could have anticipated all the things I needed to know to
Mhm.
successfully run the station. Like I just didn't know. And I was actually in a model home last year, and I was walking through, and the salesperson was apologizing to me for all the bugs on the floor. They were apologizing to me. That is not something that should be happening in real time. These are the kinds of things we want to talk about in the new hire blueprint. I want you to have the checklists and the tools and the resources that empower you before the customer comes in,
Right.
before you start making mistakes in front of the buyer, because we can't afford to make those mistakes right now. And so it's an opportunity to empower these new hires with the tools and the knowledge and the understanding of what to look for, what to ask, and how to be the best out there.
So this is important to me, again, going from that confidence perspective of getting into a community. And let's just take the difference. Someone who has no onboarding, hi, you're hired, here's some keys, welcome to new home sales and go figure it out. You don't know the you don't know the floor plans, you don't know the community, you don't know the community advantages, you don't know your competition, you don't have a CMA, you have no intel, right? And it's like Jack Reacher from the Amazon TV show says, in an investigation, details matter.
Yes.
So this was the other question, and this is what I want to lean into. So I had a national trainer ask me this question yesterday: is how do you onboard uh, people at different companies at the same time? Because every company has a different way of doing things. You sort of touched on it, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. Maybe a specific example of what you're doing. Because my answer to her was, well, basically, it's looking at the concepts and then going and doing the homework for your specific builder and then coming back with that because you're doing it, but it's to your builder. So I wanted to get your take on that as far as how do we differentiate, how do you create an onboarding program for a company that you don't work at?
Yeah. So, high level answer would be we are not getting in the weeds on any of the concepts within the blueprint that would take away, detract, or conflict with what you're doing. The idea is to provide the participants with an understanding and awareness of what we do in the industry so that they can go back to the powers that be within their own organization and say, hey, what do we do for this? I'm going to give you a specific example. I did not know what a CRM was when I started. I was in healthcare. I had never had to use a CRM, didn't even know what those letters stood for. I was like, what? So
I
that's a
know what
great,
CRS stands for.
yeah. Well, and I mean, I could go on with a bunch of abbreviations in our industry. I won't go there right now, but the idea is that I want to teach them what is a CRM? Why is this important? Why should you be leveraging this as a salesperson? Does your builder use one? What do you use? What access do you have to it? What are the expectations around a CRM? And that's one really specific example because when you're new, or even if you're not brand new, let's say you came from another builder, your builder operates very specifically to them. So, do you know what you need to know to be successful in the seat that you're in? Because let's be honest, I just met with a builder a few weeks ago. They don't have a CRM. That's good
What?
information to know.
Wait,
Yeah.
what? Let's
we're
stop right
really
there.
yeah, I don't really know how they're doing it, to be honest, but they're doing it. I think they're moving towards like, oh, this would be a nice tool resource to use, but that's a whole other conversation. But all that to be said is, what is a CRM? What do we use? What are the expectations for me? Why is this important? It's almost like we're selling the salesperson. Let's kind of look at it with that lens. We're talking to them about why it's important to know their CRM, why it's important to use it, why it's important to shop your competitors, why it's important to know your CMAs, to do a market analysis, to have that information, why it's important to have realtor partnerships. And that's just skimming the surface. We are building buy-in through this program on why these things should matter to them when they go back to their builder and get all the information. Because for me, when I started, I didn't know why it was important to use the CRM. I didn't know why it was important to do some secret shops. I didn't even know what it looked like to go to different builders and recognize that their processes all look different. We don't know what we don't know. So
Right.
I want to give them the tools to ask the right questions that empower them to leave and be like, I'm going to sell the socks off this place because I have the resources and the knowledge and the understanding of foundation to help me build a successful business that is my community.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just going through thinking about the difference between someone who has gone through something like this versus someone who hasn't. And being a company owner, looking at, right now, people are watching dollar spend. They're looking at, I mean, I literally um, was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and well, Peter Altachow, and Peter was talking about a builder that he's consulting with right now, and he went on their website, and their website says domain available,
Oh,
and the company owner is unaware that these things are going on and doesn't want to put the spend into training and doesn't want to put the spend into onboarding. So their philosophy, and I want to get your take on this, their philosophy is, well, we're just going to hire experienced people. And so that's the patch for not having to do onboarding and not having to do training. Let's go down the onboarding route. What is the challenge with hiring a bunch of folks that are veterans who've sold homes maybe for 10 years or whatever and not putting them through onboarding? Because it seems to me like that's a shortcut that maybe they might think is saving them some time. I think you and I probably think differently, but I want to get your take.
well, I'm gonna beat this drum again. You don't know what you don't know. So as a sales leader, as a company owner, as a business, you don't know what you don't know. What were they taught? How was their onboarding? What tools were they given? What habits do they have? What do they think is the standard? You don't know. Have they shared it with you? Have they given you the interview version of what they're going to do for you when you've got your best hat on because you want the job? What
Mhm.
are the expectations that they've already had in other builders? What are their accountability measures? So for me, even if you've been in the industry for a while, you would benefit from the program, especially if your team, this is the standard. This is the gold standard because you need to have the same foundation that everybody else does. I can give you a specific example. We've got someone who just signed up for the Blueprint this series. She's been selling for a while, but she is like, I don't know what I don't know. I know there's more for me to learn, and I didn't have the best foundation. So I want to put myself in. She's self-investing and make sure that I have all my bases covered because guess what? She's a competitive salesperson. She knows she can sell more homes, and this is a resource to her to make sure that she's checked all the boxes of a strong foundation.
And I love this because I was self-paid my whole life. I didn't know my company would pay for anything. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I wish I would have known, but I
Mhm.
mean, maybe not. I mean, I probably paid more attention because I self-paid.
Yeah.
So then to that point, with someone who is going through the program, if I'm a manager, I'm probably wondering, how am I the manager knowing what my person is getting and how do I play a role in my new hires on board with the new hire blueprint?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've seen this a couple ways. So we have a few leaders who are going to plug in themselves, who want to go through the program with the newbies because they want to hold themselves accountable to holding them accountable. And I
Mhm.
always applaud that. It's not something that the leader needs to do over and over again, but it is good exposure so that they they know what they're getting, they know the expectations. And then I've got other leaders who are utilizing the program as a way to do a checks and balances. So the newbie is going to really educate them on what they're learning. So they're going to talk to them about what they're bringing home, what their homework is. And again, the great thing about the program is because we are making it a little bit more intimate, I'm here as a resource to that leader. I want to be a part of conversations. I want to hear how things are going. I want them to know about the activities that we're putting out there so that they have awareness, but also can help hold them accountable too when they bring it back.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. So, what is the one thing that you would, if someone's on the fence, they're saying, "Oh gosh, it's that's going to take time." I mean, that's an hour a week or
Yeah.
90 minutes a week for 8 weeks, and I know it's all virtual, which is great, saves
Yeah.
on travel costs and all that. But if someone's hesitating because of the time investment or the cost of doing this, what would you tell them?
Well, I would ask them what value they place on their sales. What value do you place on having a person who's going to do the best job that they can do, selling, converting at the shortest time frame with the best knowledge, the best experience? And also, what value do they put on a new hire? Are they looking to retain top talent? Are they looking to attract the people that are going to be the best representation of their brand? Are they looking to bring on people who they want to be excited in front of their customers, who they want to create this culture around their brand? And if you place a high value on that, which I hope you do, there's no second guessing the investment in this program.
I love it. It's a no-brainer. The way it's priced, the way it's structured is if you're not doing this, my question is, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I think to that point, Ryan, I want to add there are a lot of people out there who have an onboarding person, and I applaud those builders. I think that that is fantastic. What I will say is, because I've met with a few of them now, is there is a difference between onboarding to the company and onboarding to the industry. And
Mm,
so I want to hold hands, not step on toes, with the person that is onboarding to say, you have got a lot of volume, you've got a lot of new hires, you've got a lot to teach. I want you to be really specific to your builder, to your processes, to what matters to you. And
right.
I want to help give them the industry knowledge they need to take that, put it together, and become a super force.
Yeah, this is a good point because if I'm a company and I have an onboarding trainer and I'm a C-suite person who's in charge of that budget, I'm looking at this saying, why am I paying an onboarding trainer that's in-house, and why are we sending people to onboarding
Right.
training?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good distinction between what you just said, our company and the industry. And you might say, well, why doesn't our onboarding person do industry stuff as well? And the answer is typically because it's overwhelm. It's
Mhm.
it's it's
It's
too
a
much
lot.
to do in one sitting, right? Which is part of why you have it spread out through 8 weeks.
Yeah.
But when I look at onboarding training within a company, it's usually the things that I mentioned I didn't get, which is contract. It's specific on how they've set up their CRM, right? Whatever it is. But it's not necessarily the business of this. One of the things I want to make a point of here is that the folks who treat their community like it's their own business
Mhm.
always do better than those who treat it like it's a job.
Yeah.
Without question. There's an ownership mentality that comes from the new hire blueprint that I would argue it doesn't come from typical onboarding. And so you're really getting them to own their community.
Yeah. I don't want them apologizing for the bugs in their model.
Bingo, exactly. Well, Cassie, I think this is a home run. I'm so
I'm
excited
so
that we
excited.
are getting to do this together,
Yeah.
and that we're really filling a need in the industry. And I've felt this way for quite some time. In fact, in 2015, I remember having a conversation like there should be a program like this,
Yeah.
and just no one has pulled the trigger on it until now. And so I'm so excited we get to
It's
do
going
it.
to be
Yay!
great. Can't wait.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for the time and the clarification on all things Blueprint.
Yes, we can't wait to have you all with us. Thank you.